When her husband's lies came to light, she faced a choice: break down or rise stronger. Sophie never imagined her life would unravel in a single evening. She had always trusted Michael, her boyfriend of 4 years, with every part of herself: her laughter, her secrets, her dreams. They had built a rhythm together, a life punctuated by small joys: Sunday morning pancakes, late night movies, spontaneous road trips. But trust is fragile, and Michael had hidden cracks Sophie hadn't noticed. It began subtly: a text he hastily deleted when she walked by, late nights at the office that stretched into early mornings, a faint scent of perfume on his jacket that wasn't hers. Each little thing could be explained away, or so Sophie tried to convince herself. One evening, she returned home earlier than expected from her art class, hoping to surprise him. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Then she saw him, Michael, leaning against the kitchen counter, laughing with another woman. She froze, barely breathing. The woman's hand rested on his arm, intimate, familiar. Sophie's mind spun. She could leave, scream, confront him, but she stayed rooted to the spot, drinking in every detail. The lipstick mark on his cheek, the way she smiled at him, it was all undeniable. Her heart shattered, quietly. For the next few days, Sophie tried to convince herself she was imagining things. She analyzed every call, every message, every detail of their interactions, yet each breadcrumb she found only deepened the suspicion gnawing at her heart. She confided in her best friend, Clara, over coffee one rainy afternoon. "I think he's seeing someone else," Sophie admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Clara's expression hardened. "Sophie, trust your instincts. Don't ignore this." Sophie nodded, but deep down she feared the truth would hurt more than she could bear. The confrontation was inevitable. One Friday evening, Sophie told Michael she needed to talk. He smiled at her, casual, unaware of the storm building inside her. Sophie's hands shook. "I need to know the truth, Michael. Are you seeing someone else?" His smile faltered. His eyes darted away. "What? No, I mean..." But Sophie had already seen enough. She didn't need the words. The truth was written all over his face. Her body trembled, a mix of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. She realized that the life she thought she had, the trust she had invested so deeply, was built on illusions. That night, Sophie lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day's events. Michael slept beside her, unaware of the storm raging inside her. She felt trapped between love and self-preservation, between the man she knew and the man she had discovered. Somewhere in her heart, a question formed, chilling in its clarity. How do you stay with someone who has betrayed you, and how do you walk away when leaving feels like losing a part of yourself? Sophie didn't know the answer yet, but she knew one thing with certainty: nothing would ever be the same again. The morning after her confrontation with Michael, Sophie woke with a heavy sense of unease. She stared at the ceiling, tracing cracks in the plaster, as though they mirrored the fractures in her own heart. Breakfast felt impossible. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the apartment, but she had no appetite. Her phone buzzed. A message from Michael. "Sophie, can we talk, please?" She stared at it for a long moment, her fingers hovering over the screen. Anger and longing wrestled within her. Part of her wanted to ignore him, to reclaim her power by denying him any access to her emotions. Another part, deep down, still ached for the man she had once loved completely. Finally, she typed, "Not right now." No reply came. That day at work, Sophie tried to focus on her projects, but her mind wandered incessantly. She replayed the image of Michael and the other woman, the casual way he had leaned toward her, the laughter they shared. Every detail seemed to mock her. Her colleagues noticed. "You look tired," said Emma, one of her coworkers. "Everything okay?" Sophie forced a smile. "Just a lot on my mind." Emma's eyes softened. "If you need to talk, you know I'm here." Sophie nodded, grateful for the offer, but she didn't have the energy to share her pain yet. She didn't even fully understand it herself. By evening, Sophie decided to take a walk, hoping the night air would clear her thoughts. She wandered through the city streets, lights reflecting off wet pavement. The laughter of couples, the chatter of cafes, it all felt distant, a reminder of a world she no longer fully belonged to. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Michael. "Sophie, I know I hurt you. Please, let me explain." Her heart twisted. She hated the way the words made her feel. She wanted to throw the phone away, but she also wanted to hear him, to understand. But fear held her back. Fear of more lies, more heartbreak, more betrayal. She remembered Clara's advice. Trust your instincts. So, she called her. Clara answered immediately. "Sophie, I was just thinking about you. How are you holding up?" "I don't know," Sophie admitted. "I want to know why, but I'm terrified to hear it. I want answers, but I don't know if I can handle the truth." "Then let's go to dinner," Clara suggested. "You need a break from the apartment, and you need someone who won't judge or sugarcoat. I'll be your anchor tonight." Sophie agreed, grateful for the support. Dinner with Clara was a refuge. They talked, laughed, and Sophie allowed herself to feel some semblance of normalcy. She could almost forget Michael, almost pretend the betrayal hadn't happened. But the moment she returned home, the reality of her apartment, of Michael's presence, returned. And so did the growing question, should I confront him again? Should I let him explain? Or should I walk away for good? Sleep that night was restless. Sophie dreamed of Michael, but in the dream, he was a stranger, smiling while holding another woman's hand. She woke with a start, heart racing, and realized that the betrayal had already changed her. There was no going back, only forward, and she didn't yet know what forward looked like. The next weekend, Sophie received an unexpected invitation. Michael had sent a letter, not a message, but a handwritten note slipped under her door. "Sophie, I know I don't deserve this, but please meet me at our favorite cafe. I need you to hear me, just once." Sophie stared at the note, her emotions swirling, anger, curiosity, longing, fear. After hours of pacing, she made a decision. She would go. Not to forgive, not yet, not to reconcile, but to understand. When she arrived at the cafe, Michael was already there, sitting in their old booth, looking smaller somehow, humbled. The woman he had been with was nowhere to be seen. He looked up as she entered, eyes filled with a mix of relief and guilt. "Sophie?" he said softly. She didn't respond. She sat across from him, arms crossed, her gaze steady. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he began, "but I owe you the truth." Sophie listened as he explained the moments of weakness, the mistakes, the guilt that had consumed him. Each word felt like a dagger and a bomb. She wanted to hate him, wanted to reject him entirely, but part of her, the part that had loved him, still ached to believe. When he finished, there was silence. The kind of silence that wasn't peaceful, but necessary. Finally, Sophie said, "I needed to hear it, but it doesn't change what happened. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." Michael nodded, and I accept that. "I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Truly." Sophie let out a shaky breath. For now, that had to be enough. The days that followed their cafe meeting were tense and quiet. Sophie tried to resume her routine, but the weight of betrayal lingered in every corner of her life. The apartment felt both familiar and foreign, each object a reminder of the trust she had once given freely. Michael called and texted repeatedly, leaving voicemails filled with apologies and pleas to meet. Sophie didn't respond. She needed distance, space to think, to breathe without the constant pull of his presence. Work became her refuge. Hours spent immersed in projects, deadlines, and meetings gave her moments of escape. Yet even in the office, her mind wandered. She imagined conversations with Michael that might never happen, endings that might never come. One afternoon, she received a message from an old friend, Liam. They hadn't spoken in years, but he had always been someone she could confide in. "Hey, Sophie, long time no see. Wanna grab coffee? I think it's time we catch up." She hesitated, then typed back, "Sure. Tomorrow?" Meeting Liam was like stepping into a warm light. He was unchanged, kind, attentive, easy to talk to. Sophie felt a sense of ease she hadn't experienced in months. For the first time since discovering Michael's betrayal, she laughed genuinely, without hesitation or fear. "Michael's still in your life, isn't he?" Liam asked gently. Sophie nodded. "He wants to fix things, but I don't know if I can trust him again." Liam leaned back, thoughtful. "Sometimes people need to walk away to see what they truly value. You're stronger than you think, Sophie. And whatever decision you make, it should be about what makes you whole, not what others expect of you." That evening, Sophie sat in her apartment, staring at the city lights. She thought of Michael, of Liam, and of herself. For the first time, she realized that her happiness didn't have to depend on anyone else. She began making small changes, rearranging her apartment, rediscovering old hobbies, journaling her thoughts. Each act, however minor, felt like reclaiming a piece of her identity. Michael didn't give up. One evening, he showed up at her door with a bouquet of lilies, their white petals bright against the dusk. "Sophie, please, just talk to me," he pleaded. Sophie's heart thumped. Part of her still cared, still loved him despite everything. But she squared her shoulders, her resolve firm. "I've heard enough, Michael. I can't keep doing this back and forth, this waiting for someone who broke my trust. I need to live my life without being tied to the cast." His eyes filled with tears. "So, you're leaving me?" "Yes," I said softly. "I'm leaving the life that hurt me. I'm choosing me." The following weeks were a mix of liberation and ache. Sophie explored her independence, meeting friends, trying new activities, and slowly building a life that belonged entirely to her. Yet Michael's absence left an occasional pang of loneliness, a reminder of love lost and lessons learned. Through it all, Liam remained a steady presence, supportive, attentive, and patient. He didn't push, didn't demand. He simply reminded Sophie that she deserved happiness and respect. One night, Sophie walked along the river, watching the reflections of city lights shimmer across the water. She thought of the past, the betrayal, the heartbreak, and realized that while pain had shaped her, it didn't define her. With a deep breath, she whispered to herself, "I am stronger. I am whole. I am free." Weeks passed, and Sophie began to feel the shift inside her. The heaviness that once chained her to Michael's betrayal was slowly giving way to something lighter, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Her days were filled with rediscoveries. She spent afternoons painting again, her brush sweeping across the canvas in vibrant colors. She joined Clara for yoga classes, laughing as they toppled out of poses. On weekends, she explored new parts of the city, enjoying the freedom of doing things for herself, on her own terms. Michael was still there, lingering at the edges of her life. Texts that she no longer replied to, flowers left at her door that she never accepted, voicemails that remained unheard. His desperation no longer broke her. It only reminded her of how far she had come. Liam became a quiet constant. He was never overbearing, never intrusive. Instead, he appeared when she needed a friend, listening without judgment and reminding her that she was worthy of more than betrayal. One evening, as they sat in a small cafe near the river, Liam asked gently, "Do you ever think you'll let someone in again after Michael?" Sophie looked down at her coffee, swirling the spoon absent-mindedly. "Sometimes I wonder if it's even possible. Trust feels fragile now, like glass. Once it breaks, you can never really fix it." Liam smiled softly. "Maybe it's not about fixing. Maybe it's about creating something new, something stronger. Not glass, but something that won't shatter as easily." Their eyes met, and for the first time in months, Sophie felt a warmth that wasn't tangled with pain. It was subtle, almost fragile, but real. The turning point came unexpectedly. One afternoon, as Sophie walked home from the market, she spotted Michael waiting near her building. His eyes were tired, his face drawn. "Sophie, please," he said, stepping forward. "Just give me one more chance. I've ended everything with her. I've changed. I swear I'll prove it to you." Sophie's chest tightened, but not from longing. Instead, she felt an unfamiliar clarity. "Michael," she said firmly, "I don't doubt that you're sorry, but you broke something between us that can't be repaired. I don't love you the way I used to, and I can't go back." He flinched. as though the words physically hurt him. "So that's it? After everything we've been through?" "Yes," Sophie said. Her voice didn't waver. "That's it." She turned and walked inside, leaving him standing in the fading sunlight. That night she sat on her balcony with a glass of wine, watching the city lights flicker like stars. For the first time since her world had fallen apart, she felt at peace. She had closed a door, and in doing so, opened herself to the possibility of something new. The days that followed were brighter. Sophie laughed more, dreamed more, and slowly allowed herself to trust. Not blindly, not recklessly, but with careful hope. One evening, Liam walked her home after a movie. As they stood outside her door, there was a pause, the air thick with unspoken words. "Liam," Sophie began, her heart racing, "I don't know if I'm ready for anything serious, but I do know that when I'm with you, I feel safe. I feel like myself again." Liam's expression softened. "That's all I want, Sophie. No pressure, just us as we are, and we'll see where it goes." She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. For the first time, love didn't feel like a risk. It felt like a choice. And Sophie was ready to choose herself. And maybe, just maybe, something new. The city bloomed with summer warmth, and with it, Sophie felt her own spirit begin to blossom. Days were brighter, nights less heavy, and her laughter, once buried beneath layers of pain, surfaced more often. Her friendship with Liam deepened naturally. They shared walks by the river, long conversations over late dinners, and quiet evenings filled with simple companionship. He never rushed her, never pressed for more than she was ready to give. And because of that, Sophie found herself letting him in, one piece at a time. She noticed the small things, the way he listened without interrupting, the way his eyes lit up when she spoke about her art, the way he made her feel not fragile, but strong. Yet, shadows still lingered. One afternoon, as Sophie left her yoga class, she found Michael waiting by her car. His once sharp suit was wrinkled, his eyes red-rimmed. "Sophie," he said urgently, "please, just 5 minutes." Her pulse quickened, but she kept her tone steady. "Michael, we've been over this." He shook his head, desperation leaking into his voice. "I can't let you go. You're everything to me. I made a mistake, but people make mistakes. Doesn't what we had mean anything?" Sophie's chest tightened, but she didn't falter. "It did. It meant everything. But then you chose to destroy it, and I can't keep carrying your guilt for you." Tears welled in his eyes. "So it's him, isn't it? This Liam guy?" Her silence was answer enough. Michael's expression twisted between anger and sorrow, but Sophie didn't stay to see which one. She got into her car, locked the doors, and drove away, leaving him in her rearview mirror. That night, she sat on her balcony with Liam, the city humming softly around them. She told him about the encounter, about the way Michael's words had stirred old wounds, but no longer controlled her. Liam took her hand gently. "You don't owe him your future, Sophie. You've already given him enough of your past." His words sank deep, settling in her heart like truth. She leaned against him, not as someone broken seeking shelter, but as someone whole, choosing companionship. A week later, Michael made one final attempt. He sent a long email, pages of apologies and promises, desperate pleas to reconsider. She read it once, carefully, then closed her laptop. This time, she didn't cry. She didn't tremble. Instead, she drafted a simple reply. "Michael, I wish you well, but my life is no longer yours to share. Please don't contact me again." And with that, she hit send and felt something inside her finally release. The following evening, Liam surprised her with tickets to a local art showcase. He said, "I thought it might inspire you." As they wandered through the gallery, Sophie felt her heart stir at the vibrant canvases, the bold colors, the raw expressions of pain and joy. She realized she had her own story to tell, not just in words, but in paint. On their way home, Liam asked, "Have you ever thought about showing your own work?" Sophie laughed softly. "Maybe someday." But deep down, she knew someday was closer than she thought. That night, as she prepared her brushes and set out a blank canvas, Sophie understood. The past no longer defined her. Betrayal was part of her story, yes, but so was resilience, growth, and the courage to love again. And with every stroke of paint, she wrote her new chapter. Autumn arrived with a softness Sophie hadn't known in years. The air carried crisp promises, the trees blazed in fiery colors, and with each passing day, she felt her own transformation mirrored in the season around her. Her apartment, once a place of shadows and silence, now buzzed with energy. Canvases leaned against the walls, unfinished pieces filled with bold strokes, deep blues, fiery reds, and golden light. Each painting was a fragment of her journey: grief, betrayal, healing, renewal. When Liam stopped by one evening, he paused in front of her newest canvas. It was abstract but powerful. 2 broken lines weaving into one bold curve, flowing forward together. "This is incredible," he murmured. "You have to share this with the world." Sophie smiled, warmth blooming in her chest. "I think I'm ready." Weeks later, Sophie stood in a small gallery, her paintings hung proudly along the walls. The opening night was packed with strangers, friends, and supporters, faces lit with curiosity and admiration. She moved through the crowd, nervous but exhilarated, her heart pounding with a rhythm that felt alive. When she caught sight of Liam, standing proudly near her work, their eyes met, and in that moment, she understood. This was not just survival, this was growth. Later that night, after the crowd had thinned and the gallery lights dimmed, Sophie and Liam stepped outside. The city glowed softly under the lamplight, a quiet hum in the distance. Liam reached for her hand. "I don't want to rush you, Sophie, but I want you to know I'm here, for as long as you'll have me." Sophie held his gaze, steady and unafraid. For the first time in so long, the idea of a future didn't feel heavy or uncertain. It felt possible. It felt hers. "I'm not running anymore, and I don't want to look back." Liam smiled, and together they walked into the night, side by side, not bound by the pain of the past, but by the promise of what lay ahead. Sophie's story wasn't about the betrayal anymore. It was about finding strength in the ruins, reclaiming her voice, and daring to open her heart again. And as the seasons turned, she finally understood. Healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about building something beautiful out of what remained.